We checked in at the Mott Community College parking lot, boarded the shuttle bus, and we're at the solar farm property in less than 10 minutes. And we're going to have a look around and show it to you guys too. Come with us. And then over here we got the rides vehicles, the tractor trailers. They've got free refreshment set up here, a tent with water, pop, chips, a hand washing station and porta potties, EMS on site. This is really well thought out and set up. They're doing such a great job here with the setup. So let's go see what kind of activities they have. DTE electric car, Chevy Bolt. I think that's the lowest price electric car you can buy in the US right now. We got some live music. Edit out all this music because it's probably copyrighted. Free body art for the kids. Isn't that nice?
Something cool on it.
It's a nice event. An energy savings program to tell you how to save energy at home. We have most of that stuff. We have LED light bulbs and low flow shower nozzles. They've got two very nice tractor trailer setups here with a farm tractor pulling a passenger wagon to tour the facility.
My name is Paul. I am an employee at DTE. Been there for 12 years. The whole time I've been there, I've been involved with site planning and the design of solar arrays and wind farms. So actually, if you have questions about wind turbines as well, I'm a guy that can help answer both of those questions. I'm one of the people who works on the layout of them, with the wind farms, the shadow flicker studies, sound studies. When we get to solar, we still look at the ordinance setback requirements, noise requirements, wildlife requirements. We still do investigations to make sure there's certain habitats. You know, we can't be in wetlands. If we impact them, we have to offset that. Right now, you're in the middle half of the wind part, or of the solar part.
Do these maintain the same angle year-round and throughout the day?
These arrays, and go ahead and ask questions. This is good. It'll make it go quicker. These are in a 25-degree angle, and that is kind of middle position between the winter through the summer. So in the winter, the sun stays lower on the horizon. In the summer, it's more above. 25-degree angle gets us right in the middle of that, right? So these do not move. They are what we call fixed. What we will see going forward, we're going to be called single axle, where they'll axle in one direction. And what it'll do is it'll be a pipe that'll run north-south, and instead of being tilted, they're going to be flat. And then in the morning, they're going to face the sun. They're going to track the sun around to the night. And then just when there's a little bit of power left over, they're going to turn themselves either to neutral or to face the sun to come back up in the morning. And that's what we're going to see going forward. This is 50 megawatts of power being given off of our 250 acres total. 125 acres here, 125 acres on Turl acres. This is the substation that takes all the power and puts it onto the grid, right? So what happens is the panels make DC power, and then you look off to the west. From the DC power, they combine all of it and it goes to those boxes, and that's an inverter. And that inverts the power from DC to AC. And from there, all the different panels have a cable buried underground that goes back to the substation. Each of them has their own line, gets to the substation, goes up onto the grid, but then it gets used right where, oh, there's a deer underneath the array. It's laying down. She got to come up further probably to see it.
Right through there, laying down under those trees and shade.
You see that brown laying down there? It's looking at us.
What is looking? A deer.
That's nice to see that it supports wildlife.
Yeah.
So in the morning, in our first trip that we went through here, we were scaring out the sandhill crane, we were scaring out the deer, and obviously the deer don't seem to care about us anymore. And the turkeys. So there's plenty of turkeys, there's plenty of wildlife that's actually living in here.
Is this one of the larger solar arrays in Michigan?
This was the largest up until a few years ago. and they built a much larger one now over in Saginaw. I'm not exactly sure how many megawatts that is, but I think somebody said it's like 1,000 acres versus this is 250. DTE is going to be looking to do the same. We're going to be doing single developments that are either going to be 250 to 1,000 acres. Our 50 megawatts support over 10,000 homes. So literally on a hot summer day like this with the sun, we're powering more than the needs of the city of Lapeer.
Nice.
Out of this one solar array. And I will say this is kind of our peak demand, middle of July and August when everybody's got their AC on. There was a time in May, it was coming on 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were on our kind of more traditional base load request of about 5,000 megawatts is what we need every day. From like September to May. That's all we need is 5,000 megawatts. 30% of all of our power was being made from renewables at that time, right? Right now, if this is 50 megawatts, our goal in the next 10 years is to build 5,000 megawatts. So I want to do 100 of these, right? So if I take the south half of Michigan, start from, let's say, Mount Pleasant south, there's 40 counties. Each county has 350,000 acres per county. If I do 1,000 acres out of their 350,000, one per county, I've got all of the land that I need to do all the solar we want.
So what are the drawbacks? Like what do people fight about?
Well, there is opposition, and they come out of actually southern Michigan. There's a guy, he's got a coalition called IICC, and because he used to go around and say how dangerous wind turbines were. And it's been speculated by some with more knowledge than me that people in oil and coal, and it just so happens that his partner, who also is an attorney, was an attorney for a coal company up until the day they started this non-profit Citizens for Responsible Development. And they went around and talked about all the evils and dangers of wind, right? And he didn't have to say a lot about solar. Now we're looking at solar, and he's traveling the countryside through multiple states saying how bad solar is, that you're losing pristine farmland is one of his biggest complaints. And that's where I say, out of 370,000 acres, I want to do 1,000.
Another deer.
One of the things about a solar array is we're actually better for their environment because we don't put any nitrates. There's no fertilizer, there's no pesticides, there's no herbicides that are going anywhere. If anything, we're a water recharge because everything that hits this soil goes right back into the soil. Right?
Have you heard anything about agrivoltaics?
About what?
Agrivoltaics? Like
yeah, planting that underneath. So you would end up having to put the array so high up off the ground. You'd end up having to put concrete into the base instead of, right now, these bases, all they are is an I-beam that's pounded into the ground, right? When we want to leave, you just got to pull that I-beam out. If we want to go 8 feet taller to put equipment underneath it, all of a sudden we're going to have to be putting in concrete foundations and all that other stuff. And the cables that are just 18 to 24 inches deep, we're going to have to go 5 feet deep to make sure we don't hurt, the farmer never hits anything. So it adds a lot of cost, and then you got to worry if they ever hit a panel. Does the farmer pay us when they hit a panel? So this allows us a more efficient use right now. We are talking about whether we can get sheep to do any of the grazing underneath. We'd have to do more protection of the wires and that. It's a possibility. We're going to explore it, I think, next summer in just a few of the small developments. See how it works.
You said this has been here 5 years?
Not goats, because goats will eat everything.
Goats will eat everything.
See, goats will eat the metal conduit. The sheep at least won't eat the metal conduit protecting the wires.
Oh. In 5 years, have they had to replace very many of the cells yet?
So in 5 years, yes, I know that we replaced panels, and you can actually see some of them are a little darker from time to time where they replace. So the manufacturer, you know, there's a wire connection or something in the back. So Yeah, we did buy extra for that over the life of the park, but you can see they're pretty much consistent. We haven't had to do a lot of replacement.
What is the life of the park?
So the life of the wind panels or solar panels is at 25 to 35 years. So the manufacturer warrants that in 25 years it'll still do at least 80% of its capacity, right? So even at 80%, right, they have already gone out and done inspections. The panel's been 20 years and they're still 92% of their capacity. So they gave a really number of 80% that they know we'll never get to because they don't want to deal with the warranty. And the pike panels are recyclable, but at 80% of their efficiency or 90, even if we went to a different panel, I would see there'd be a market for these again. Yeah. And remember, the black that you're looking at is just silicon, right? It's basically sand. The outside rack that holds it is aluminum, and there's silver inside making the wire connection, all of it. So we already recycle, and in 20, 30 years, there will be probably an entire industry for panel recycle to get the aluminum and the silver and that back out of it. Obviously, the support structures are steel. We're always going to need steel, wire, copper in the wires. People recycle it today, so I'm sure in 30 years we'll have more. Yes, sir. Direct sunlight works. So that's not the design of this one. So out west they do have the mirrored ones, and what they do is they mirror it to one focal point, and they're not getting electrons right off of it. They're back boiling water. They're focusing all the light up into one spot, and they're heating up salts to like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 degrees, really focusing that sunlight, and they're using that heat to boil water. So for 150 years, DTE has boiled water to make electricity. A coal plant boils water to turn a turbine, gas plant boils water to turn a turbine, and a nuclear power plant, all it does is boil water to make electricity. So anytime the solar is on, anytime the wind is blowing, it's just less carbon that we have to put into the atmosphere. And if we do 5,000 megawatts, middle of the day, most every day of the year, solar is going to be supporting almost everybody in the state of Michigan. We've got 1,200 megawatts of wind right now and those are better in the winter months and at night. So that's how they complement themselves between the seasons and day and night. So we think bringing this renewables on, our cost for solar is around $30 a megawatt hour, right? If we wanted to replace a coal plant, it's about $120 a megawatt hour, right? So there's just a giant disparity of it, and a coal plant puts out 50 times the amount of carbon in its life than it takes for a solar plant, because it still takes energy in that to get it out of the ground and make the components. But over the life of the project, for its life cycle, for every megawatt, it does 50 times the amount of carbon released.
How that compares to turbines?
Well, wind turbines are about the same. Yep, wind turbines are about the same. Yeah.
How much does the efficiency go down when it's a cloudy day?
So, like right now, we might be putting 100% of its capacity, and on a cloudy winter day, about 18%.
Oh, it drops
So it's a lot less.
Yes, it's a lot less, but it's still something.
Yeah.
And they argue that in a good moonlight night, you might get a little.
Oh, really?
But I haven't. That's just the romantic in me.
Oh, goodness.
Very nice.
How many total panels are here?
220,000 panels. I hear other numbers. I usually just try and say somewhere around 200,000, right, to be a total between the two parks. Mother Nature takes care of it for us, and that's good. We don't have to use any detergents or anything as well. No power washing. Winter time with that 25-degree angle they're on, snow just takes a day or two. The surface is black. Yeah, they just heat themselves off and they runs off as a slush.
So can I ask a
No, you can't.
simple explanation? He said, how do they turn it into the solar power into electricity? Like, can you sort of boil it down for a 6-year-old?
The The sun power is so strong. The sun power is so strong that when it hits the panel, that sunshine, that energy, we can take that energy off. So you know how it feels hot in the sun? That's the energy from the sun on your arm. And these panels know how to take that energy that you feel on your skin and make it into electricity.
Very nice.
I did 3 presentations at Ipsy schools in Washtenaw this week, and yesterday was the St. Louis schools at just south of Mount Pleasant is yesterday. So I'm on a kindergarten to 5th grade level right now.
I think we appreciate that too. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for
Thank
your
you.
knowledge.
Thank you.
Thanks for a good smooth ride.
Yes, I have helped place all of the wind turbines that DTE has
I know
in the 12 years I've helped plan all of them.
our towns like what, like 3% of their, not even that.
Uh,
Field
Every
they use?
turbine takes up 1 acre.
Yeah.
So we do a site plan on 12,000 acres, and we only take up about 80 acres of land out of 12,000 acres.
I want to thank DTE Energy for having us out on the tour today. It was very informative, professional, and very well organized. If you have any further questions about DTE's sustainable energy, scan this QR code or visit their website.